Hello. Today we're going to be talking about Be Smart, a program developed by Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund to bring together parents and all adults concerned about kids, guns, and safety. My name is Angela. I'm a mom of 2 teenagers, and I live in Columbia.
Hello, my name is Sarah. I live in Columbia, and I have 4 children.
Hi there. I'm Joanne. I live in Fort Mill, and I have 3 children.
Hey, I'm Kathleen Reynolds. I live in Greenville and have 4 kids in elementary school.
Hi, I'm Purnima Ramasamy from Columbia, South Carolina, and I have 2 teenage children.
Hi, my name is Kristen, and I live in the Charleston area. I am a mom to 3 children who attend schools within Charleston County School District.
Firearms are the leading cause of death for children in South Carolina. More than 1,600 children under the age of 18 are killed with guns in the U.S. every year, an average of 5 children every day. When children in America are killed with guns, the majority of those deaths, 53%, are homicides. That's nearly 900 children each year. Another 700 children die by firearm suicide each year, and 90 are unintentionally shot and killed. Gun violence costs South Carolina over $6 billion each year, of which almost $300 million is paid by taxpayers. We know that approximately 4.6 million children in the U.S. live in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. And this number has likely increased in light of the surge in gun sales during the COVID-19 pandemic. While school shootings and mass shootings typically make national headlines, the reality is that for children under the age of 13, gun homicides most frequently occur in the home. And one study showed that nearly 90% of unintentional shooting deaths and injuries among children under the age of 15 occur in the home. What's more, we know that in incidents of gunfire on school grounds, 75% of active shooters were current or former students, and between 73 and 80% of shooters under the age of 18 obtained the guns that they used from their home or the homes of relatives or friends. We know this is an emotional issue, and we all come from different walks of life. Many of you may be parents. Some are gun owners, and some are not. You may have had a personal experience with guns, and some of you may even have been impacted by gun violence. We believe that most gun owners want to be responsible gun owners, so we would like to talk about what all of us, gun owners and non-gun owners alike, can do to make sure children don't have unsupervised access to guns.
So let's leave politics aside and agree on these 3 things. We all want kids to grow up happy, healthy, and safe. We each have the right to make responsible decisions about how to protect our homes, families, and communities, including whether or not to have a gun in our home. If we can prevent even one child gun death or injury, it's our responsibility to do so. We're not here to talk about laws, so let's set that aside. I want to take a few minutes to talk specifically about what the consequences of unsecured guns looks like. On this slide, you'll see just a few headlines from stories from South Carolina and across the country that reflect the consequences of unsecured guns. Most, if not all of you, recall the Townville shooting in September 2016, when after shooting and killing his father outside their home, a 14-year-old boy drove into the school parking lot at Townville Elementary School and shot 2 6-year-olds and a teacher. One of the 6-year-olds died, and the other child and the teacher were injured. More recently, at Tanglewood Middle School in Greenville, a 12-year-old brought a gun to school and shot and killed another 12-year-old. According to the data we have gathered, there were at least 5 incidents of gunfire and at least 29 incidents where firearms were discovered on school campuses in South Carolina in 2021, and these incidences continued to happen in 2022. The next tragedy took place in fall 2021, when on the same day, 2 different 4-year-olds in South Carolina, one in Easley and one in Newberry County, unintentionally shot themselves. The boy in Newberry County found a loaded gun in an unlocked box in his parents' bedroom while they were asleep. There were at least 15 unintentional shootings by children in South Carolina in 2021. The next headline on the bottom left illustrates that when kids are looking to carry guns out of fear, easy access to guns can help facilitate the cycle of violence. Like 17-year-old Zeke of Jackson, Mississippi, who told the Jackson Free Press that some young people in his community carry guns out of fear of being robbed or shot, and believe that having a gun will allow them to defend themselves. The final story occurred in May of 2021. According to law enforcement, a Ware Shoals high school student, when a school staff member was attempting to confiscate a Juul device, the staff member noticed that the student also had a handgun. It was during this time that the student suddenly shot and killed himself. He made an impulsive decision that tragically became a fatal one. All of these stories show the fallout of when young people get their hands on unsecured guns. No story is quite the same, but all are tragic and all are preventable. It's important to remember that even if you are practicing secure storage or if you don't have a gun in your home, you can't be sure about other homes. You can't be sure about how responsible other people are being, and that's where our Be Smart program becomes helpful. What can we do? We can learn to be smart.
S. Let's start with S. Secure your guns in homes and vehicles. 13 million households with children contain at least one gun, and the majority of children in gun-owning households know where that gun is stored. We already know that, in incidents of gunfire on school grounds, the majority of shooters under the age of 18 obtain the firearms from their homes or the homes of relatives or friends. So what do I mean by securing guns? Guns should be secured, locked, and unloaded with ammunition stored separately. Hiding a firearm is not securing a firearm. And we know that that can lead to tragedy. We talked about the under 10-year-old Greenville boy who unintentionally shot a 4-year-old after accessing an unsecured gun. And remember Zeke from Mississippi, who spoke of the complicated safety reasons that push some teens to want a gun? Keep in mind that kids may feel a variety of emotions about guns, from curiosity to fascination to fear. As adults, it's our responsibility to prevent easy access to firearms. Research also finds that secure storage is associated with a decreased risk of firearm suicide and unintentional firearm injury among children. One study showed that the households that locked both firearms and ammunition had a 78% lower risk of self-inflicted firearm injuries among children and teenagers, and an 85% lower risk of unintentional firearm injuries. Some commonly used secure storage practices include using a cable lock, a lockbox, or a firearm safe, as well as storing firearms unloaded with ammunition stored separately. Unsecured guns also contribute to the staggering number of guns stolen each year. An estimated 380,000 guns are stolen from private gun owners each year, and gun owners were 3 times more likely to have a gun stolen if they carried it within the last month. Research also suggests that nearly 1/4 of stolen guns are taken from cars. So storing a firearm in a glove compartment or underneath a car seat is not considered secure storage. We have a handout on secure storage with more information. M. M is model responsible behavior. Every law-abiding adult has the right to decide whether or not to have a gun in their home, but we can't rely on curious kids not to find a gun. As we saw on the slide before, one study showed that the majority of children are aware of where their parents store their guns, and that more than 1/3 reported handling their parents' guns, many doing so without the knowledge of their parents. Nearly 1/4 of the parents did not know that the children had handled the firearm in their house. It is always an adult's responsibility to prevent unauthorized access to guns, not a curious child's responsibility to avoid guns. Talk to your kids about gun safety, but remember that that's a precaution, not a guarantee. One study found that young children who go through a week-long gun safety training are just as likely as children with no training to approach or play with a handgun when they find one. Modeling responsible behavior means that smart adults make sure that kids do not have the opportunity to access firearms. That said, parents can't control the environment that their child is in all the time. So parents should teach them not to touch a gun if they come across one, real or pretend, and give them the tools to get out of a dangerous situation and to alert an adult. As an adult, it's a parent's responsibility to do everything they can to prevent them from getting into a dangerous situation to begin with. We also have a handout on best practices for talking to your child and teens about guns.
As we have mentioned, there are approximately 4.6 million children in the U.S. living in a household with at least one loaded, unlocked gun. That's why you need to ask about firearms in other homes your child visits. The A in SMART. For parents and caretakers in the room, what are some things you ask about before allowing your child to go to a friend's or another home? You might ask about potential allergens or pets in the home, pools on the property, car seats for rides, who will be at the home for the play date or teen event, TV and screen time, electronics or video games, and alcohol access. Asking about guns in the home should be as natural as asking about any other safety issue, but it can seem awkward at first. So try making it a part of your general safety conversation. You might try asking via email or text if you're uncomfortable at first.
Let's talk about recognizing the roles of guns in suicide. Access to a gun can mean the difference between life and death. We saw that in the Ware Shoals High School student's story. As our children get older, you may need to consider taking another look at your storage methods. If you have been using a simple cable lock, you may want to think about getting a gun safe. We all know how curious children can be, so that as they get older and more resourceful, we need to act accordingly. Also, if you know your loved one is in distress, you might want to consider temporarily removing a gun from your home. Take this information into consideration. Most people who attempt suicide do not die unless they use a gun. In fact, 90% of suicide attempts with a gun result in death, a much higher fatality rate than any other means of self-harm. This contributes to the fact that 40% of child suicides involve a gun. And it is important to note that child suicide deaths in South Carolina have increased every year from 2015 to 2019. The latest data available is 2019, and 49% of child suicide deaths were caused by discharge of firearms. If you consider temporarily removing a gun from your home, how can you do that? Where can you bring it? Local law enforcement may be willing to temporarily store your guns. Some licensed gun dealers or gun rangers may be willing to temporarily store your guns. Or you could temporarily store your guns in the home of a friend or family member. To manage risk for that friend or family member, you should lock any guns that you transfer and not provide the key or code. The youth survey conducted by the CDC showed that nationally, 17% of high school students surveyed had seriously considered attempting suicide within the last year. And in South Carolina, that number was even higher, 20%. One study showed that 41% of adolescents in gun-owning households report having easy access to the guns in their home. As we discussed earlier, research shows that secure firearm storage is associated with a decreased risk of child firearm suicide. We have a handout with more information, facts, and resources on child firearm suicide, and it includes this suicide prevention hotline.
The T is for tell your peers to be smart. That's the power of being smart. We have heard from people that because of Be Smart, they know to ask about the presence of guns before their children go to other people's homes, that they have talked to family members about guns in the homes when they have recognized the role of guns in suicide, and that gun owners are modeling responsible behavior as a direct result of Be Smart. It's important that the people who own and work with guns are a part of this conversation. Research shows that law enforcement, the military, and hunting or other outdoor groups are particularly effective at communicating safe storage practices. So, who will you tell to be smart today? The acronym SMART is here to review again. The S is for secure all guns in your homes and vehicles. The M is for model responsible behavior. The A is for ask about unsecured guns in other homes. The R is for recognize the role of guns in suicide. And the T is for tell your peers to be smart. Our last slide includes the website to learn more information about Be Smart and to access the handouts that we have mentioned throughout this presentation. And also includes our email address to reach Be Smart volunteers who can help you share the Be Smart message in your school district. On the bottom of the slide, you will find the link to a video from the Richland County Sheriff's Department, which shows you how to use a cable lock and also a trigger lock. Thank you so much for joining us today.